This is the PIXINSIGHT process tutorial for color saturation. You find this process in Process, Intensity Transformation, and then Color Saturation. So what does this process do? Well, as the name says, you can change with it the color saturation of a picture. And I know instinctively your first reaction will be, why do I even need that? Because I have the curve transformation, right? And in the curve transformation, I can go to saturation, and here I can change the saturation however I want. So why would I need this process? Now the interesting part is that it's not similar to other processes where we really have duplications in PIXINSIGHT, but here it's really a different mechanism. In the curve transformation, when we go to saturation, we actually change the saturation over all the colors. We cannot select a separate color except we would work here with color masks or something like that. But otherwise, we impact all the colors the same. In color saturation, as you can already see down here, we have the full spectrum of colors, which means we can really adjust the color saturation of each and every color if you want to do so. And I will show you now how this works. So before we even start to increase the saturation of a picture, we should always protect the background. Because if you don't do that, the background actually gets saturated too, and that looks very blotchy. So how do we do that? There are a million ways how you can create masks, from first doing a star map. But the easiest one is just to go into range selection. We're now going preview, and now we're actually moving the lower limit up, and now you see how it starts to decrease. Whatever is white will be affected, so the stars and the nebulae. Whatever is black we will protect. And in this case we really want to have the nebula to be impacted, so we don't want to go down to narrow, so something like that would be really bad. First of all, I would say around this here, and then in addition we can make it a little bit more fuzzy, but then increase it again a little bit more. So I think that should be about okay. We don't want to protect the background any further. So we execute that, we can close the preview, and now we have here this mask. And this mask we can simply drag and drop on the picture. We can minimize the mask, we can close the range selection, and now you see that everything that is red is protected, everything that is black, the stars and the nebula, will actually be impacted. So we can now actually, with this icon here, show hide mask, or with a Command K, we can actually look at the whole picture and see if it's okay, and it looks okay. So we hide now the mask because we want to see the impact over the whole picture, but it's still active. With that, we can now start increasing the color saturation. So we open a preview, and normally now the first thing you want to do is to increase the saturation overall. So you go here to this purple line, you click and hold, and you move the line up. For example, like this. You let go and you see we have here this yellow line. And when I select and deselect, you see that now actually the saturation of the nebula and the stars has increased. Now I could say that in principle I want to have the saturation of the stars still a little bit higher, but I do not want to saturate the nebula anymore because it's red enough. So what I can do now, I can put in the same way you do it in the curve transformation. I put now here a dot, and I can start, for example, where it's red, I can drag it down. And then I can select the second dot, and wherever it's not red, I can move it up. Something like that. Now there's one thing which is not so nice. And that is, you see you have here red, and you have here still the orange, which is also kind of reddish. So that makes it rather complicated to make this curve. It would be much easier if the red would be in the middle, right? And we can do that with the U shift. If I move now this lever, you see that the colors start to move. And I move it until red is in the middle. And now I can actually delete one of the dots that I made. And I move the other one right in the middle of the red. So I want to have the red on the lowest point, and the rest I want to have higher up. If I feel now that I dragged the whole thing down too much with the curve, I can always go back to this purple bar. I just have to be sure that I get here the line, and I can move the whole thing up. And now I can also move this one here up again until I feel it's good. Okay, so I'm happy now. We have a nice little additional saturation. I don't want to have more. Looks good. Obviously, we could tweak that now further. For example, we could make here the line flat and only here a dip if we want that. We can also play with different curve models, especially here we go to a linear form and here more to a curve form. It has minimal effect. What is also interesting, we can actually save the current curve here, for example, and now we can mess it up. For example, let's try with the dip. If that's better, can look at it. Yeah, no, whatever. We can now actually go back here with restore curve and we have it back to how it was before. So if we want to experiment something, that's a nice option here. This here is kind of hard to see the value. We inverse the curve. I would really not know why you would do that. And with the X here, we can actually delete the curve without changing the U-shift. So if you mess up the curve but you already changed the U-shift, don't close the process, don't reset, just press here the X and you can just redo the curve. So once everything is fine, we execute the picture and we close the preview, and here we are with our more saturated picture. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please give me a like and press the subscribe button. Very much appreciated. See you next time, and clear skies.